Hello and welcome to the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I just had to say into the microphone, wait, how do I start this thing? This is going well already. Lance, how are you? You're my co-host.
I'm just totally disoriented, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know.
We have a trombone player already on the line. I think we should make this.
That's what threw us off.
We should make this a tradition, just like with Christopher. I think he's rebranded with Christopher Bill. We made him just sit through it, so we should just make the trombone sit through the intro. Jim Bubblebutt Nova is back on with us. Jim, how are you?
The bubble butt strikes back. That's right.
The bubble butt strikes back.
Oh,
I'm doing bubblerific.
Poor Jim with all of his nicknames. So we are here to. We told him that it was to give him a chance to stick up for himself. We're just going to keep cutting him off. So it's great to have Jim back. We had him on pretty early, right? Was that in the first 20 episodes?
Yeah.
So that was the first year of the podcast, and it's no longer the first year of the podcast. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah,
it's true.
It is good to have. I'm not used to having a trombone player on these episodes, so sorry, Lance.
Well, anyway. I mean, don't tell Jim I'm going to say something nice about him now, but he's also incredibly patient because all we do is give him a complete raft of you know what, and he's brought us the most our first one, was he ahead of Parker? I think you were ahead of Parker, weren't you? Or was pretty close.
I think so.
And so, yeah, in terms of financial support of the show, you've been there since the beginning, and we have abused you more than anyone except our dear friend, Jen's Lindy Mann.
Yeah, it's a real drag that I get mentioned on every single episode by name. It sucks, I wish you would stap.
That is exactly when I saw Jens at Kevin Gibo's wedding, which was about a year and a half ago. No, 2.5. Oh, God. It's 2.5 years ago because he's got a kid that's over 1. I don't know. It was 10 years ago, whenever the hell it was. When I saw Jens tried to act really mad because we were sitting at the same table.
Please.
Actually, he wasn't supposed to be at my table, but I was sitting with Seth Cook. I was sitting with Phil Snedeker. I was sitting with a whole bunch of meatheads, and so he wanted to be sitting with the cool kids, so he moved people's cards around. It was pretty funny, and he pretended for 5 seconds to be mad, and then I said in front of the whole table, I said, Jens, we have the best brass players in the world talking about you every other week to the world, it's your dream. And he smiled. He goes, yeah, you're right. So yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, that's exactly I have people ask me all the time. They're like, "Man, doesn't that piss you off that they're always calling you Bubble Butt?" I was like, "Okay, first of all, look at me, okay? This is like calling a guy without a left hand lefty. It's just I'm not really offended, and they're talking about me by name every episode and making people laugh, and we all know that nothing imprints on your memory quite like laughter. So it's why would I be mad? And they're like, oh, yeah, I never think about it that way. I was like, it's fine,
When I was thinking about forming Pedal Note Media, I was like, who should I partner with for this? And then I was like, well, Lance has no redeeming qualities, but he makes me laugh a lot. I was like, well, he's the perfect partner.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
It.
So why do you think I've been married twice?
Yeah. Because at some point the jokes are no longer funny. Now the good news is that the second time he's only been married for about 2.5 months now, so I think the jokes are still funny. I think.
I think.
I mean,
I think.
Yeah, but
seems like it.
Time will tell. I believe in you guys. So. Yeah, she could upgrade. I think you've Yeah, you've hit the ceiling.
I maxed out. I leveled up.
You leveled up, right?
So speaking of leveling up, we need to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke model euphonium mouthpiece. That's the only time in history that the words Lance LaDuke and model have appeared in the same sentence. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
You think he makes any soprano trombone mouthpieces?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I think we should have people email him about that, don't you think?
I do.
For sure.
I do.
Yeah.
Get on it, people.
What would the stamp be on the side of the mouthpiece? Something from The Sopranos, maybe? Maybe like a Satrielli's, no, that's too long. A pig? From the head. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That would actually be funny if we could, since that is a butcher shop where the Sopranos had their, where Tony Soprano had his headquarters. Since Parker's vegan, put a pig
He's
on.
Vegan? Oh, wow.
He is vegan. Yeah, he has been for a very long time. A very long time. And he's like one of those real vegans. He's not like a vegan who eats fish, cheese, and chicken from time to time. Whatever those people are called.
Oh, crap. Well, yeah. I guess I'm not a vegan anymore.
Yeah, that's Lance. But anyway, enough about Lance. Let's talk about Jim. So, Jim, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to some stuff coming up soon. Going to visit our good friend Joe Alessi soon. Going to Juilliard the weekend of May 5th.
Nice.
To do my whole trombone at the movies program with him.
Sweet.
And that will be, it's crazy to think, that'll be my 40th school since 2013. 40. I mean, wow. That's just, and I haven't even, this has all come to me. I haven't even picked up the phone or sent an email or anything. It's all, a lot of that I'm sure is because my SoundCloud has now passed 750,000 listens.
Wow.
It's just crazy. And the cool thing about SoundCloud now is that you can actually monetize stuff as long as, you have the ISRC codes, like the mechanical licenses, that kind of stuff. You can monetize it. So, pretty soon I'll be able to get that newspaper I've been saving up for.
You mean you're going to buy a newspaper?
Yeah, exactly.
The entire company. Yeah, they're pretty cheap these days, depending on the newspaper. Yeah. Well, it turns out that if you regularly put incredible content out into the world, that people are going to knock on your door.
Yeah, I guess I got them fooled. Strength in editing.
Well, tell us about this. Movies program that you've got for anybody that doesn't know anything about it.
A couple things. This is in the they're always in the educational kind of vein. So they tend to go through always like university events, that kind of thing, and the program it's an all movie program, and it's usually starts out with some of the early stuff like Parade of the Charioteers from Ben-Hur and Raiders, and I usually do the Green Hornet in there somewhere. It's all trombone choir stuff, and then I MC the concert at the same time and talk to the audience about the pieces, and usually share some fun story or personal story about it, that kind of thing. And do Superman at the end of the first half usually, and then the second half is just basically all Star Wars stuff. And that's the way that program usually shakes out. But this summer, I'm actually going to do a full concert version of that album I released, that Star Wars album I released. It's going to be the first time ever, and it's actually going to be at Ball State this summer. It's July 13th is the concert, and I'm going to be the closing concert of the ITF this summer, the International Trombone Festival. So, wow. Chris Van Hoff is the is the trombone teacher there, and we worked together at Colorado State before he went to Ball State, and he liked the program, the movies program so much. And I had mentioned to him how I was going to be releasing this album that I've been working on for a long time, and I said, I'm actually going to develop it into like a concert version too. And he was like, man, I would love to do that. And so when he landed the ITF for this summer, he said I was like one of the first phone calls he made. He's like, man, I want you to do this concert, and I'd love for you to do it with people who are artists who are going to be at the festival already. And, I was so psyched about it. And so I basically taken all the versions that I recorded, which of course are very different. They're huge numbers on the album, but like I've made all these 11-part arrangements for, like, there are 2 alto trombones, 6 tenor trombones, 2 basses, and 1 contrabass trombone, and percussion timpani as well. And so I put this group together from the artists, and I thought, since Chris is the host and he's going to be there and it's his school, like, I actually asked him if he would conduct it. And so he's going to be the conductor. And this group, I mean, every time I read this list, I get giddy like a high school teenager or something. Like, it's insane. I'm going to be playing the first alto part because I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It's going to be a blow. And then Nate Sconce from the Atlanta Symphony is playing the second alto part. And then the tenor trombones are Jorgen von Reen from the Concertgebouw, the new principal of the Met, John Romero, Brian Santero, who's the New York City Ballet Orchestra principal. He's trombonist named Mayumi Shimizu. She's the principal trombonist of the Southwest German Radio Symphony, and she studied with Ian Bousfield, and she's just a really incredible player. And then Peter Steiner, basically an international touring soloist, but he played a year in the Vienna Philharmonic, studied with Joe at Juilliard, that kind of thing. And then there's this guy, Yu Tamaki, who is now he's another Japanese trombone player who's like a soloist, and he used to play in the South Denmark Philharmonic. And then the bass trombones are George Curran of the New York Phil and my colleague Jeff D from the Pittsburgh Symphony. And then on contrabass is the inimitable Nick Schwartz, who's the bass trombonist of the New York City Ballet Orchestra.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going to suck. It's really not going to be very good. I mean, it's just, and what's really fun is that every one of these people responded within a day to say yes when I asked them about it. That's
pretty awesome.
I mean, to have that kind of, response, I mean, and of course, some of them hadn't heard some of the stuff, but most of them had, and they were like, oh man, that is, yeah, I'm going to be part of that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's quite an artist run. I mean, I am so psyched for that concert. I'm working like crazy, finishing up the arrangements and like all these, like making all these like practice tracks based on my album for them to be able to use to like practice to work up the concert and stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's really, really exciting. Really exciting.
Incredible. I'm trying to process that list of names. That's
yeah, I know, right?
That's insane. You could just take half of those names and then fill it in with half really good high school kids, and that would be a mind-blowing roster.
I know. Well, I announced it. I put the roster out on Facebook like when I finally got it all settled. And, Craig Knox, he's very reserved and very measured with his responses. His response was, "Holy Jesus!" It was like, so people were like, "Oh my God, I have to go! Like, I'm going to that," And so it's going to be really fun. Yeah, it's really going to be cool. Really going to be cool.
So which one of those people are you most looking forward to playing with?
Nice.
Well, I've played with Nate a ton, and he was like the natural choice to be my wingman for this concert because we're like we're like brothers from different mothers, like we're very, very get along great. But
he's old hat, so it's not him.
And He's the only one crazy enough to play that second alto part that I can think of. But I have never played with a lot of these guys. Like Peter Steiner came to Duquesne and did a recital a couple years ago, so I got to hear him play, and he like stayed with me and stuff. And but I've never actually played with him. And I've played with George Curran at Southeast Trombone Symposium, which I'm going back to that again this summer. That'll be the fourth year in a row, actually. Going back to that's an incredible festival too. And so I've played with George, and of course I play with Jeff every week, and Nick Schwartz. I've played with him a bunch. He's played extra here in the symphony many times. But I think Jorgen is one of those players I've always admired for many, many years. I mean, his recording of the Tomasi Concerto is, in my opinion, one of the best ever. And so I'm really looking forward to playing with him. But I mean, it's hard for me to pick one I'd like better than anyone else, because this is can you imagine what this is going to sound like? It's just,
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Chris was like, I'm very excited you asked me, but I'm kind of freaked out about conducting a group of this caliber.
Right.
And I was like, actually, you should be relieved. I mean, think about how little you're going to have to do, it's not like you're going to have to tune chords or like get people to play with good rhythm or something. It's just like,
you should tell him that he should just like give everyone the hand all of the time.
Like every cue have his hand up, make
the bitter beer face.
Do you think that you could pay him enough money to just make a musical comment to the same guy every time that they stop? I've only spoken to him once, but I interviewed John Romero for a project that'll be coming out down the road, and he was cool as hell. That'd be pretty funny actually if you just made him just give a comment to John every time they stop. Just be like, no, it's good, but John, you're just see how long it takes for him to figure it out.
Yeah, I've only met him briefly, and we chatted through email and stuff, and he seems like a really nice guy, and I actually went to Baylor University about a month ago to do my Trombone at the Movies program with Brent Phillips there, and he's got an incredible program. And John Romero did his undergrad there at Baylor. Yes. And he told me a great story. He said that when John went to school, he wasn't a music major. He just showed up, and he basically on the first day of classes showed up to Brent's office and said, would it be okay if I take lessons with you, and blah, blah, blah. And Brent was like, well, let's have a lesson and see. And he was like, after about 5 seconds, he was like, yeah, I think we can work something out. And so he started studying at Baylor, and, but everyone talks about how wonderful player he is and how modest he is. And, so I'm looking forward to meeting him. And
he's a funny dude. Super funny dude. Yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yep.
But you guys had Chris Bill on recently. I heard that episode, and that was
Stay in your basement.
Yeah.
That's right, because it was for the ATW, right? He was out there for that.
Christopher, I don't know if you got the memo.
Yep. Well, he and I are going to actually make a video that, of course, is going to release on May the 4th. Yeah,
that's what my first thought was. Did you tell Alessi, like, we really can't do it on the 4th? We got to wait till the 5th. But anyway,
no, that was his choice. I mean, I think it's the venue they have and stuff. But Joe was funny because he said when he was asking me about that, he said, it'd be great to have you come out and do this concert and blah, blah, blah. He's like, do you think, would it be okay if I played? And I was like, yeah, I think that'll be fine. Yeah. I was like, yeah, can I send you some music and you can record it? And
send me a video. Yeah. And it needs to be a video, so I know it's not edited.
Do I have to decide right now?
Yeah. But it's going to be awesome. That's going to be great. But Chris we're going to make a video, to be released on May the 4th. And I think you can guess what the source material will be coming from.
Star Trek.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we're Lord of the Rings, actually.
Good stuff. I can't wait to see that. We really enjoyed talking with Chris. He's what an immense talent. So we keep saying nice things about all these trombone players.
The bar is very low.
Is that it? Like every time I hear Joe Alessi, I'm blown away. Is he actually not that good? It's just that the rest of you are so bad that he just sounds that good? Or
context is everything.
I'm gonna text him. I'm gonna text him after this that you said that. So, or maybe I'll wait until like May 3rd. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because like he's from that era, that when I'm growing up listening to players and that kind of thing, and kind of transitioning from being this student who took lessons with him to like being in my first job and asking him advice about things, and then transitioning to like him treating me like a colleague. It's just been, there's still a part of me that's like has a hard time accepting that.
Isn't that a weird thing?
It's really like I could never, when Glenn Dodson was alive, like I could never call him Glenn, even though he asked me every time after a few years after I graduated to call him Glenn. I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't do that, but Joe has been, we're friends in cars, as it were, and so like when he came out here last April to do this master class, we took my car out and like drove around, and he was just like, I'd never heard him laugh like that, it's just like, so but he's really excited about it, and the kids are really thrilled. Like that he has a student who just won the job in the National Symphony. I saw that. Kevin Carlson. Yeah. And I worked with Kevin at STS, over the last few years, and just watched him blossom into this incredible player. He was always super talented. And so when he got the job, I immediately texted him and I was like, man, that's such great news. Congratulations. And he wrote back to me, he goes, yeah, it's great that I won this job and all, but I still can't play your arrangements. He's like, I'm still going to have to work like my ass off to play these things in May. Like, and I was like, well, so one of these days, kid, you'll get there.
Stay humble, kid. How old is he?
Oh, 21 or 2 or maybe. Yeah. I don't know. He's really young. In fact, I said to him, I was like, if you want to talk about, good ideas about negotiating your contract or stuff like that, you're so young, they're going to really try to get you for as little as they possibly can, given your age. And I said, I'm sure you're going to get good advice from Colin and Joe, who are his primary teachers. I think he studied with Colin at Montclair State for a year or two before going to Juilliard and studying with Joe. And I was like, but if you want another opinion, especially for like, like a associate utility, that kind of thing, that kind of job, like I'd be happy to chat with you. And he did, he took me up on it. We had a nice long conversation about it. And, but he's really strong player. I'm really not surprised, that he got that job, especially again, knowing that section the way I do too, like that didn't surprise me. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's an easy section to play with.
Oh man,
and an easy section to get along with. Yeah, they have a lot of fun back there.
Well, Matt Guilford, right? He so I guess I have to ask before I tell the story. Are we going to put an E rating on this?
Whatever. It depends.
Sounds like we're about to.
Until I was going to say that's not determined until much later in this process.
I thought Craig Knox was going to get us there, and then you said "Holy Jesus," and then I was like, "Well, no, I think that's okay." So yeah.
No, we did this thing in January to support the Baltimore Symphony. They put this concert, a brass concert together, kind of like we did when we were on strike, and except it was preemptive. It looked like imminent that they were going to be locked out or something, and so they reached out to us and Philly and National to play this combined brass concert in Baltimore, and it was awesome. It was, every group played a little bit on its own, and then we played this mass stuff together. And like we played my Superman brass ensemble arrangement.
Nice.
And after the rehearsal, Matt and I are friends, and it is this whole pile of trombone players. We're all walking to go get dinner, and like we all kind of ended up in a pack as usual. And and in front of all these trombone players, Guilford comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Nova, your Superman arrangement. Fuck you." In front of everybody, everyone just busted out laughing, and then later he's like, "Man, it sounds great, but man, is that hard?" And I was like, "Well, I can play it. I don't, what's the, And he starts laughing, but, and then later he sent me an email. He's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, like, I have nothing but," and I was like, "No, I totally get it, Matt. Like, it's, I deserve every, every bad will I get for that."
Well, there's two different fuck yous, right? There's like the one that he gave you, which was like, that is incredibly difficult, but there's no animosity there. And then there's the other one, which is, that was incredibly difficult and it had absolutely no point artistically, so I really hate your guts. Right. We've all played those things too. So yeah.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Yeah, remember the Fanfares project, Lance? There was one in particular that was
that exhale tells me a lot.
Yep. There was one in particular that was a collegiate composer who, for the 25th anniversary of Boston Brass, we commissioned 25 fanfares that we opened concerts with, and some of them were like super cool. Like some of them were high school kids, where there was like a contest for the. Yeah, which was really neat. And so you got to meet like some 16-year-old kid who was on cloud nine, and it was great, and it helped sell tickets, and it was, and some of those pieces were fantastic. But there was one in particular that was a collegiate theory composition / theory professor, and the fanfare was 5.5 minutes long, and it was like quarter note. It was like quarter note equals 160, and there were like it wasn't full. It was on the way towards atonal and like running 16th notes in all of the parts at 160. I mean, it was like there were parts in all 5 parts that were sections that were like the last page of a euphonium concerto. And it was terrible. It wasn't really hard and great art. It was just kind of like,
it was a long walk for a short drink.
Yes. I practiced that thing so many times, and then we read it, and I was like, "What? Really? Really? Can I have a time machine to go back to last Tuesday, please? Yeah, I could just maybe not practice this, but anyway." Yeah. Good times. Yeah, whose idea was that, anyways?
It was Lance's, wasn't
that's right.
It wasn't actually.
Oh, it wasn't. Oh, I thought it was yours. No, it was actually a great idea. So I was going to give you credit. Whose idea was it?
It may or may not have come from
management.
Might have.
Yeah, there you go. That Lance is being cagey. I'll ask him again in the bonus episode. Lance, why don't you tell these lovely people about the Papert people?
Hey, you know what?
We happen to have one on the line. What are the coincidences?
We got a bona fide Papert person here. It's a profound pleasure to provide a Papert person, perhaps pontificating particularly powerful prose.
Perfect.
The Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in beautiful and sunny Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the temperature read 61 degrees and it felt 38, 39, something like that. Yeah. But anyway, it's a great incentive to stay inside and practice and to go find out about all the wonderful goings on in the Mary Papert School of Music and in the brass area. And so we have a special page designed just for those folks who are interested in finding out more about the Mary Papert School of Music at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And you can click on the link in the show notes below to be taken to that page. And none of this would be possible were it not for our very own Jim Don't call me Bubble Butt.
I happen to be right here and can thank you on the show.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. No, it's been most kidding aside, it's been fantastic that you've been such a great supporter of the show. And actually, I'll continue to say some nice things about you, because not only have you put Duquesne's money where your mouth is, you have thrust our content upon your students and have made it required listening for them. And you've gone above and beyond, and we really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, like, you know, this stuff is really great and useful for my students. And it's just like, I hate to admit it, but, you know, what can I do, you know? And, and Andrew, your podcast, The Entrepreneurial Musician, is also one that I require my students to listen to, because it's just, I mean, I don't feel as bad about saying that it's great, you know, but the Lance part, it just really, I have a really hard time with it. But
get in line.
Sometimes you got to do the right. You got to do what's right, even if it doesn't feel right. You know?
Well, if I had $1.
Like playing that fanfare.
Well, what's funny about podcast land too. You had Kathy Heller on early on, and I listened to her. I listened to that episode, and I was like intrigued. So I started listening. I've been listening to her podcast.
She's great,
and I find so much of what she interviews, like her guests, have so much useful information. I'm always writing down quotes and stuff, like for my students.
Yep.
Well, it's strange though, as in terms of podcast land, like Kathy interviewed this woman who listens to her episode and started her own coffee roasting business. And, you know, my wife is like insane about cats, right? And this woman named her coffee business Kitty Town Coffee, because she, you know, like loves cats and has all these stories about cats and names the varieties of coffees she makes cats, right? So I heard that episode and I ordered a couple pounds of her coffee, and it's great. It's really, and it's like made in central Pennsylvania or something. And so I ordered that coffee, and then I put a Facebook post up and tagged her and said, you know, I think I found my wife's, like dream date coffee forever, like her life, her soulmate coffee. And we ordered it, and she saw that post and she wrote to us and she said, you know, funny thing, like I haven't named that particular variety of coffee you bought. You know, do you guys have a cat? And it turns out we do. And like, it turns out that this cat's going to be like the cover model for this particular variety. How weird is that? Like, follow those dots, you know, it's like Brass Junkies, Entrepreneurial Musician, Kathy Heller, coffee, our cat's a coffee model. Like, what is, you know, like Hollywood screenwriters are going, man, that's good. Whoa, where could I come up with that? You know?
Jim's cat is a coffee model.
Yeah.
Okay. Just updating the show notes. Thank you very much.
Right. Show notes / Easter eggs. Yes.
Okay, so I got a little frightened because you were talking about how Kathy Heller was the early guest, and I was like, gosh, did we interview somebody called Kathy Heller? It could be. I don't know.
Lance, like my wife, hears me talk enough, so he doesn't listen to TEM. Yeah.
That's right.
I got a really good laugh at I did a keynote speech at a music and arts event for about 100 music educators this past weekend, and I started the whole thing by saying that that I'd never had my own, that while I am a music educator, I've never had my own program, and then I always mention that my wife is an amazing middle school band director. Her name's Tiffany Hitz, and I said, we only live an hour away, and then I said, she's actually, normally she would be here because she loves hearing me talk, and the whole room erupted in laughter. So that was a good line. So she was like judging in North Carolina or something like that. So that was like 3 minutes in too. They could already tell that I was kind of a jackass, but that kind of sealed it. So, and you could see a few people kind of sat up like, all right, this is going to be great. And then a few people were like, oh shit, this is going to be like this, huh? Only another 57 minutes to go. So, Yep. So, and she gave me that look because I told her I said that. She said, "You're such a jackass," and I was like, "Yeah, I am." And then she said, "But that's pretty funny." That means it was really funny because she usually doesn't encourage me. So Jim, I understand that you get a lot of speeding tickets.
Well, actually, it's been pretty. I got to knock on wood here. Like it's been a long time actually, because
why though?
Well, I'm
because his license was suspended.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's because I'm riding a bike now. No. Well, I got a speeding ticket within like a month of getting my license when I was 16. And it was in like one of those cars. I had my first car was a Ford Fairmont. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but if you took a shoebox and put wheels on it, that's basically what it looked like. And it had less horsepower than my watch. I think the cop, when he pulled me over,
less horsepower than a horse.
Yeah, it had a half horsepower. It had a mule power. But it was I think the cop was like impressed. He was like, I don't even know how you got this thing going above the speed limit. And yeah, it was just a big problem. It's always been a big problem for me.
Okay, but I want you to tell Andrew.
Come on, spill the beans.
You had to sell a car.
Yeah, that story.
Yeah,
I was just about to tell that story. Yeah,
good. Because that's the one, man. That's like you're bona fide.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Holy Jesus!
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I used to drive Audis, and I had this one. And actually, this car. It was like I bought it my second year in Utah, and I'd always, it was that whole thing about following my dream of being like Glenn Dodson, playing a big orchestra, driving a fast car, all that kind of. So my second season in Utah, I bought an Audi S4, and I was constantly modifying it. And this one particular day, I had gotten this, big turbo kit upgrade and all this extra power, and the car was insane. And the guy at this guy at the shop that I had this work done, he was a race driver, and he's like, man, I never driven in a stage 3 S4. And I was like, do you mind giving me a ride? And I was like, sure. So we get in the car and we start driving down. We get down to State Street in Salt Lake City, which it's like an airplane runway. It's like 3 or 4 lanes on each side. And it's, this part of State Street is about 2 or 3 blocks from, maybe a quarter mile from the entrance to the freeway. So I'm waiting to make the left onto State Street, and I'm going to tear down there. Well, I didn't realize that to my right in the traffic pattern that was at the stoplight, there was an unmarked South Salt Lake police officer. And he basically had a front row seat for me, just tearing off like a, are you guys Top Gear fans or that?
Yeah, I used to like that. I haven't watched it in a while. Yeah.
Or like Jeremy Clarkson would say, I took off like a stabbed rat, I mean, it was, I was just flying, and, it was so fun. And we get to the next light, and this, unmarked, Ford SHO or something. It pulls up behind me.
Oh, it'd been sweet. It was a Fairmont, wasn't it?
Yeah. Wouldn't that be just as it's like karma, right?
Budget cuts.
But he would have had to throw a lasso on me if that was a Ford Fairmont. But he waits until I make the turn, and then he throws the lights on, and he pulls me over. And I think he was expecting to find like a kid or something behind the wheel, because he was really aggressive with me. And he comes up to the window and he says, shut the car off. And so I shut the car, and he give me the keys. And he takes the keys and he slams them onto the roof of the car and says, you just lost your car, buddy. And I'm like,
and your Superman arrangement's way too hard.
Yeah. But he's like, get out of the car. I'm impounding this car. Like, you're gonna have to find alternate. And I think he was like an inch from throwing the cuffs on me and throwing me in the back of the car. And he's like, I visually estimated your speed at 60 miles an hour, and it's like a 30 mile an hour zone, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, I was going a lot faster than 60. I would be willing to bet I was going well over 100 by the time I got to the next light. I mean, that car was insane. And
cup holders? Do they have cup
holders? Yes, very nice cup holders, actually. But so he and I don't, you've never had, I don't know, you don't strike me as two guys who've had your cars impounded. So basically what happens is you sit there while he inventories your car and writes down literally everything that's in it and puts it on this report, and a tow truck comes and takes it away, and you get to sit there and watch as they do that, and so
one Parker soprano trombone mouth.
Exactly.
What if he had what if he had Seth Horner's mouthpiece box in his car?
Oh man,
right? That would have taken all day.
What kind of drug paraphernalia is this, mister?
Well, did you see I mean, my is
that a Halbert
24-8W?
How many mouthpieces does he have? Did he say he has? Or did he not be able to count?
A box worth, yeah.
And then he kept on forwarding me. He kept forwarding me all of the messages he got from people saying, "I have a box too." He forwarded me photos. People were sending him
wow.
His people came out for him. Yeah, he got a lot of moral support.
It's true. Well, yeah, you have a point. A box of tuba mouthpieces could be a mouthpiece.
Yeah, I mean, a box of trombone mouthpieces and a box of tuba mouthpieces are very different things.
Yeah, fair enough.
But no, just today, I have a grad student at Duquesne who actually just won the second trombone job in the opera here, the Pittsburgh Opera. He's really good player, and
awesome.
And his name's Taylor, and he posted some picture of 5 Greg Black mouthpieces that he has, and he says, "I think I have a problem," or something like that. And I immediately put a picture of just the mouthpieces I used on my Star Wars album, which was more than 5. And I said, amateur. And and then I posted the picture of all of my mouthpieces, which is 14 mouthpieces. So I think I might be the one who has the problem. But
maybe. Taylor Fong?
Taylor Jones, actually.
Taylor Jones.
Taylor Jones.
Yeah. Fong's a bass trombone player. Okay.
Yeah, right. He's a bass trombone player. Yeah. Yeah. At one point, Taylor Jones and Fong were at the school, and I was like, Taylor's not that common a name. So to have 2 Taylor trombone players here at the same time is kind of weird. But anyway, back to speeding. Yeah. I mean, the funny thing is when he was inventorying the car, he was he actually looked at me at one point and he goes, "This is the cleanest car I have ever inventoried." And I looked at him, I put my hands up, I was like, thanks? Do I say thanks to that? So I had to call.
Has he impounded a lot of cars? Is that is that what he's known for on the force?
I guess. So I had to call Lindsay, who was not my wife at the time, but my girlfriend, and say, honey, yeah, I need a ride. She's, What do you mean? I was like, yeah, my car is impounded. My car's in jail. So I hired this attorney, because I had to go to court over this. It was a mandatory court appearance. And I hired this attorney who turned out to be this real artistically minded guy from Brooklyn who he used to live and practice in Brooklyn, and he moved to Salt Lake City to be with this woman that he was going to be marrying. And so he was like, "I'll take your case." And he says, "Here's the deal. I'll take your case pro bono, but you just get me symphony tickets anytime I want them." And I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. You got it. And he said, okay. And he was, he's from Brooklyn, so he's really very, very brief. He's like, okay, look, you're going to sell that car now. And, I want to show up to that court hearing telling the judge that you sold that car. And I did. And, I was staring down the barrel of a Class C misdemeanor. Because he cited me for exhibition of speed and reckless driving.
Exhibition of speed?
Yeah, that's a thing. And when you combine the two, it becomes a Class C misdemeanor in Salt Lake City. So that, if the judge had decided to really throw the book at me, that would carry with it jail time,
Nice.
So, but it was so overreaching because the fact that the cop was physical with me and slammed my keys on the, and I didn't, give chase or anything. As soon as I saw his lights, I pulled right over. I didn't, I like to drive fast, but I'm not an idiot, so, or at least not that big of an idiot, and he didn't show up for the hearing. And he wrote in his notes that I was like weaving in and out of traffic. And it's like, that's completely not true. Like there was nobody on that side of the road. Like I had a clear shot to the on-ramp to the freeway, so all of that kind of played into my favor, and they pled it down to a really,
jaywalking,
serious, failure to signal, right? No, it just became a speeding ticket, and that was the last speeding ticket I got until a few years ago. I was driving to like a Pittsburgh Symphony fundraiser thing that I like screwed up the directions, and I was kind of running late, and I was just started accelerating a little too much. It was a brass quintet thing that we were playing, and so he pulled me over, and it wasn't a bad speeding ticket, but I basically, I pled it down to like like they call it when they put it in abeyance, which means like as long as you don't get another ticket for a year, it just drops off your license and stuff. So, but I mean, the thing that really happened after that first ticket where they impounded my car was I started going to the track. I started doing more racetrack stuff and kind of going to those high performance driving schools. And then I started instructing at them. And that's something I do now in Pittsburgh. Like I'm an instructor at the Pittsburgh International Raceway, and teach like high performance driving schools and stuff like that. And that outlet has really helped me separate the two. So people are always like, when they ride with me, are always kind of like, wow, like I thought I expect you to be like flying all over the place. And I was like, I drive a red M4. Like if I'm going to speed, I might as well pre-write the tickets myself. I might as well just like fill out the name and address stuff, It's like, so I don't really do that.
Does Salt Lake City ever have a Grand Prix? You wouldn't even have to like check the course first if you competed. You just be like, oh no, I know these roads.
Oh, you mean like well, they have a great racetrack out there. The Miller racetrack is, that's an incredible facility.
I mean, like one of the ones where they take over like a city, like F1. Like,
no, they don't do.
Or wherever.
Monaco. Yeah, Monaco is amazing. If there's any car fans listening to this show, like you got to watch that. There's a new Netflix show called Formula One Drive to Survive.
I saw that. It looked kind of interesting.
It is. If you want to have a peek into why I do this and why it's fun and all that, just watch that show because it's really well done. And they do a whole Monaco circuit, and it's just like that is, for a car freak like me, Monaco is one of those like, Mecca kind of places. I mean, this car that I own now, I did a European delivery of it with while on tour with the PSO, because a European delivery is like most of the German makes do this, and it's like if you order the car for European delivery, you pick it up in Europe and you pick it up at their factory, and then they, like in the case of BMW, they give you like 2 weeks of insurance, registration. They will pay to ship it back to the U.S. after you're done with it, and all you have to pay for is the gas. And so the Pittsburgh Symphony went on tour in 2016, and the tour ended in Munich, which is where BMW does its European delivery. So I stayed a few extra days after the tour and picked up this car. And at the time, George Vosberg was in the orchestra still; he hadn't retired, and Bill Caballero. The three of us went and picked it up. And it was just so much fun. And you get to take the car out, and then the orchestra went back home the next day. And then I took the car up to the Nürburgring, which is this really famous German racetrack that is commonly known as the Green Death because it's extremely dangerous. And of course, I took a brand new car on that road. But it's an amazing place for a person like me. And then I took it, speaking of the Top Gear show that we were just talking about, one of the roads they talked about as being like one of the best driving roads, if not the best driving roads in the world, is this place called the Stelvios Pass, which is like just just as you cross out of Switzerland into Italy, there's this road that looks like somebody, took a piece of spaghetti and then just draped it onto the side of a mountain sideways, side to side, So it's this incredible road, and I got to drive the car on that road. So it's really pretty insane. And I made this whole video of the whole experience and put it up on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. And I put all these PSO recordings underneath it, as the soundtrack. And the minute that video hit the air, Joe Leslie called me and he was like, holy crap, you got to tell me about that whole experience. How cool. And, just so fun. And, it's just for car freaks like me, I mean, trust me, it's an illness. I wish I wasn't afflicted with it. I have a lot more disposable income if I wasn't into cars as much as I am.
How long have you been teaching?
Well, I started in Salt Lake. So, but I didn't like to do it much because it's usually I do it because they ask me, because it's actually at a racetrack. It's a whole different experience to be the passenger than to be the driver. It's terrifying in some cases because, you're basically teaching these guys who have these really high performance cars, but don't have any skill. And so they'll be doing things that are really wrong. And it can kind of make you, not feel so good, Is
it like a driver's ed car? Do you have a brake on your side as well?
No, I wish. I wish. I mean, there have been times where I have put my hand on the steering wheel and turned it.
Wow.
Because I'm like, no, come on, turn this way. Don't do that.
Jeez. What does your wife think of that?
Not much.
No, come on, that part.
She's not into it at all. She's really unhappy about it. Yeah. But I mean, she knew, I remind her that I totaled a car on a racetrack before we got married. So, she knows about this. It's not like I hid it from her, in fact, she was the one who had to, that was great. When my first BMW, I had this incident where I just spun out and crashed, and I was totally fine. I had a helmet on, and the only injury I had was a small burn on my right thumb from the airbag deploying. It just comes. It has this compressed gas that ignites. And so it just burned my thumb a little bit, and so I get off the track, and the funny thing is the car I hit the wall, and the BMW has this thing called BMW Assist. It's like their OnStar system, their remote system. And immediately the car calls me and says, Mr. Nova, we have a signal that your airbag has been deployed. Are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. And they were like, well, should we deploy an ambulance to come help you? I was like, no, I see one coming. And they were like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm at a racetrack. And part of the expense of going to those schools is they have these emergency vehicles that are just sitting on the side of the track, engine running, ready to go if something happens. So that ambulance was at the car almost before the dust had settled, And so the BMW Assist person is like, oh, okay, great. So we don't need to send a tow truck. And I was like, no, there's one of those coming too. And be fine. And they were like, we have on our call list a Lindsay Wood. Should we go ahead and call her? I was like, no.
That will not be necessary.
No, do not call her. If she gets this call from you, you're going to have to send an ambulance to pick her up because she's going to have a heart attack. Do not. I will call her. I
would rather you call. There's a traffic cop in South. He's in Salt Lake City, Utah. If you could call him, he'll be happier.
Well, so I get out of the infirmary, and my thumb is they do a concussion protocol on me and all that kind of stuff, and it's totally fine because I'm a trombone player.
See,
how much damage could I take? But it was amazing actually how well that car reacted in that environment. I mean, it was like I crashed a car at a racetrack, so it's not like I was leaving the shop and save or something. You know what I mean? It's like I was hauling ass, and that car just gave its life for me. It did everything it was supposed to do. I mean, to me, that's always the number one reason to buy newer cars is up-to-date safety technology. I mean, it's insane how advanced they've gotten. But so I get out of the infirmary and I call Lindsay and I said, "So Lindsay, first of all, I'm fine." And she's like, "What the hell do you mean you're fine?" Because she knows where I am. And I was like, "Yeah, the car, not so much. I think the car's dead." But then after that ensued a huge legal battle with the insurance company because I had State Farm at the time, and I've been doing this driving school stuff for years. It's not like I had kept it a secret. In fact, I'd contacted my agent several times, always asking, should I buy extra coverage for this kind of thing? And, back then this stuff wasn't as popular. Like people didn't do this so much. Back then the policies were kind of written like, if you're racing or you're competing, then you're not covered, like a school, like a driving school, which is what I always did. It was kind of vague. Now, the way the insurance policies are written, it's all like, if you put a tire on a track, you're not covered. Most companies do that now. But at the time, I mean, I would give these like completion certificates to my agent saying, I completed these safety courses, because it wasn't just about driving around the track. It was like they would do all these cool like skid pad things where you drive in, like they'd soak the tarmac with water and turn off all your traction control and kind of intentionally skid so you could recover, and teach you how to do all that kind of stuff. And like,
sounds terrifying.
Oh, for a guy like me, it was like Candyland,
That's
man.
awesome.
It was so fun,
Well, here's a couple of obvious questions. So parallels between playing and driving, and then teaching driving and teaching trombone.
Oh, they're tremendous parallels, actually. Well, first of all, as a student, when I was starting to learn the driving stuff, like I would always get comments from my instructors about how easy a student I was to teach, like how I would retain things. And because think about it, it's kind of like if you're driving a track, it's kind of like playing a piece, everything's there all laid out, the map, where you're going to be going, doing certain things. So little by little, you would, you would like craft things. You'd be like, oh, okay, so on this corner, if I turn a little tighter, I'll get through it a little better. Oh, I need to let off the brake a little earlier here so that I can, get this kind of trajectory. And it's very much like, oh, okay, this time when I play this phrase, I'm going to breathe here so that I can kind of get this focal point to happen. And, and of course, like a parallel to playing, do the course slowly first until you really learn it. And, and then remember where you didn't do something well and try and do it better the next time. And that kind of stuff. The only problem with track driving is it's not like you can just hit the brakes and stop and go back and repeat a corner right away like you can practicing. So you kind of have to wait until you go all the way around, But, and then teaching it, it becomes very much the same kind of thing. You measure what the student's experience level is, what they already, the skills they demonstrate, and can they follow instruction well, and repeat the things that you wanted them to do, and not forget, But yeah, there's a lot of parallels, that's part of the reason that they kind of like when I got to Pittsburgh, I didn't really intend to do much instructing on the track, but it's crazy how small a town Pittsburgh is sometimes, because I was at the track, doing my thing. And, like I noticed on this one part of the rotor that one of the bolts was a little loose, and the only way I could get to it was like take the whole tire off, take the caliper off, like kind of basically take it apart and put it back together and fix it. And that shop that I used to bring my Audi to in Utah was owned by this guy who, he ended up being like a donor to the Utah Symphony. Really, really great guy. And he gave me a shop jacket from that shop. And so I would a lot of times wear that shop jacket, and like he had my name embroidered on it, except he always used to call me Jimmy James. and that was his nickname for me. You'll never call me that nickname because it doesn't make anybody laugh. But but he would just call me Jimmy James, and so I had this jacket on as I was doing this work, and this guy who was parked next to me saw me do all this stuff, and he was like, "So that was impressive how fast you did that." He's like, "What's the shop that you work at that you have the jacket?" No. I'm a trombone player in the Pittsburgh Symphony. And the look on his face was like, huh? And he's like, do all musicians like turn wrenches on their cars? And I was like, oh, no. I have colleagues who don't even know where their trunk release is, no way, not at all. But I met a guy who teaches at the track who's retired, a retired music teacher who studied trombone at Duquesne in like the 60s or 70s or something. And he was a music school teacher, in the Pittsburgh area for many years. And when he retired, he always had a passion for cars. And so he walks up to my car and he's like, man, I was watching you hit corner 7, just dead on every time, and I just wanted to come meet you and say hi. So we started talking and he goes, so what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm actually a trombone player in the Pittsburgh Symphony. And then he told me, oh, I'm a trombone player. So we started chatting. We've become friends, and he comes to concerts all the time. And his name's Brian Miller, a really great guy. And he just kept twisting my arm to instruct until finally they were low on instructors a couple of years ago. And so I started doing it, but it's fun. I mean, I usually try to pick very selectively what cars show up. Like I watch the cars come in, and then I was like, I think I'll take that one, but there are a lot of parallels. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels to teaching how to drive on a track and how to play. Because it's a similar type of repetitive learning. Like you're doing the same course and you're trying to get better at it. And
a lot of parallels, except if somebody rushes Bolero, nobody dies.
Well,
what have you been talking to my wife?
Yep, she paid me $20 to say that. So, yep, there you go. So I texted my fabulously talented co-host Lance LaDuke just a minute ago, and I said I texted time for Jens, meaning don't ask another question because we got to ask the Jens advice and then we got to get out of here. I wrote time for Jens, and then he texted back, isn't it always? So we are here, Jim Bubblebutt Nova, for your advice for dear Jens Lindemann and the chop problems that he has been going through for quite some time now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Still going on, huh? Well, he showed up to that Baltimore thing, actually, when he came to town for that concert we did to support them. And, man, yeah, it really isn't getting any better. It's really not getting any better. I mean, it looked kind of like he was passing a kidney stone when he was playing, It's just like easy, man. He's going to blow his O-ring,
So,
yes, he did.
If you're passing a kidney stone out your O-ring, you're doing it wrong. What? So what's your what's your advice?
Oh man, I really don't. I mean, I think if you guys could come up with some kind of annoying, inane nickname for him and just keep repeating it over and over and over and over and over.
We should make sure it has alliteration.
Do you have any examples?
Yeah.
Not really. None come to mind. But I have been accused of having short-term memory, so just not so much.
Well, there you go.
It's so fun having you back.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for having me back, guys.
Yep. Yeah. This has been great. So it
was really nice having you back.
Yeah. And
oh, nice castle. Oh, swim around. Nice castle. Like the goldfish memory, right? Yeah.
The wheels have come off.
Yes, I have a friend who tweeted, who is like actually a very successful lawyer, but he's a total jackass like we are, and he tweeted the other day. He tweeted, the best part about deleting tweets is that you never have to worry about recycling old jokes, which is like, that's funny, right? Because he does delete tweets anyway. But then 3 days later, he tweeted, the best part about deleting old tweets is never worrying about recycling old jokes, which made me actually laugh out loud. And the jackass part, he could be a co-host on this show, is that he has now, over the last 2 months, he has tweeted that, I think, 7 times.
That's the thing. You got to stick with it.
And he tweets a lot. So it's like, but yeah, it's just like, and then all of a sudden it happens. And you're just like, oh God. Yeah. So that's my kind of humor. So, yep. Funny, really funny. And then and also the key is that at that point, he's just tweeting for himself, it's just, because every time he posts it, I can picture him just giggling. Like, I'm going to do it again. Yep. So there you go. All right. Well, we are going to have you stick around for the bonus episode. For any of you who are like, what the hell's a bonus episode? We, through patreon.com/thebrassjunkies, you can get hooked up with, for as little as $1 per episode, which is a whopping $26 a year. You get a back catalog that includes bonus episodes with Mark Gould, with Jim Pandolfi, with Sam Palafian, with there's just a long list of people. Mary Bowden, Seth Horner. And these are all just recent people that are coming to mind. Joe Jackson. But there's a lot of bonus content. You get access to all of that right away, and we somehow get even less serious in the bonus episode. Those range from 10 minutes to 30 minutes long, but there's a couple of those a month. And then there's a lot more that's available there. We recently, I think on the Christopher Bill one, we gave the long spiel. So just go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to find out more about a lot of even some other podcasts that we offer just for our Patreon patrons. All right, Lance, is your heart content? Can we let him officially off the hook and then go to the bonus episode?
I guess.
All right. That is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to hear the bonus episode featuring today's guest, please visit patreon.com/thebrassjunkies to learn how you can support the show and instantly access all bonus materials, as well as gain access to a special patron-only Facebook group. The Brass Junkies is produced by the amazing, wonderful, and truly inspirational Will Houchin. The theme music was composed by Fernando Dados and performed by Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. We are at Pray for Jens on Twitter and Instagram, and have a Facebook page at facebook.com/prayforjens. You can find out more about the Brass Junkies and all the other Pedal Note Media podcasts at pedalnotemedia.com. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.